This is where we keep the gas tanks. They're in this rack and this rack over here. There's some other gas tanks that are back in the back, but it's both new and old gas tanks. We stock a line of gas tanks that fit all the Fords. What you're looking at here is strictly weight. I mean, it's just motor mounts, water pumps, rims, truck parts, the really heavy-duty stuff that you can't do anything but work it with a forklift and a tub like this. There's 300 of these cardboard containers on skids, and there's just a bazillion pounds of metal in each, totally in all these here. Then behind them is the sheet metal, which is there's like 350 quarter panels, rights and lefts, and we're talking from probably the really late 60s up through current stuff. It doesn't get really old and Model A's or any of that type of thing. Then from here, it goes into fenders. And I had them look it up this morning. There's like 954 fenders, which are in these racks here after the quarter panels. And it's got the same vintage on them that goes right up to current stuff. The brown sheet metal, the gray sheet metal, and so forth. And it's 40 feet from here to the wall. And it's on both sides. And then it gets into some smaller stuff. Over on this side we have the hoods and the deck lids and doors and some, the uglier sheet metal that's difficult to inventory. It's both cars and trucks, door skins, some exhaust, that's the plumbing that's just tough to do, and tailgates and just stuff that's really hard to inventory. There's some doors and door skins. Some have door frames, some don't have door frames. But the heavy truck stuff is in here too.
Yeah, I noticed when I came in the front door there was a bunch of slot cars and racers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As I look down here, this would be a great place to have a race, a slot car race here, right down the middle here.
Well, matter of fact, they did it for like 5 years in a row. And what they did was bring in their slot cars, the guys from around, and even out of the state came in, and they would race them to the center, and it was timed by different sizes of vehicles and so on and so forth. But the interesting part was when it was over, and everybody had got their awards and so forth. Then the deal was to take your slot car and run it to make a ramp and then see who could jump the farthest with their car. And then the real coup de grace of them all was when they would you pick out a car that you didn't want anymore, and you started at this end, somebody else started at the other end, and they ran to the middle, and it just trashed everything. And that was the end of the day when they tore up their cars.
I mean, it looks like there's, tens of thousands of parts in here. How do you come about acquiring all these different parts?
Well, they come from various and sundry situations. I mean, it's not only the local dealers here in Cincinnati, but it's dealers all over the country that have obsolete stuff that it's time to get rid of, or the buy-sell of a dealership, and they have to get rid of the stuff, and rather than throw it out, they find you. It's not only that here in the States, but it's been in the past in Amman, Jordan, and a number of foreign countries have sent us. We had a deal. I'm not sure. I can't remember what the deal was, but our government back in '68 outfitted some country And we ended up with all the sheet metal and so forth for the 68 trucks, doors, hoods, fenders, all kinds of stuff that was sent over there to the desert. And it sat out in the weather, and when it came here, it looked like it was just shipped out about 5 years ago. It was in that good a shape. You know, it was packaged and so forth, and, you know, engine parts and all that kind of stuff too. So that was an interesting buy there.
What am I looking at here?
Those are all stripe kits on the shelves there, but that's probably 5% of the amount of stripe kits that we have, because the dealers order their stripe kits and it's supposed to be green, and they order the red and the blue, and it gets all screwed up. And then also, in addition to that, they have to buy the whole kit in order to get the one piece for the fender that they need, and you know, then I get a stripe kit and it's missing one piece. But, you know, the same thing happens 2 or 3 or 4 times, so you end up with 3 or 4 or 5 of the same stripe kit, and then you put it all together, so you got complete sets. So, and the same thing is true when they call in and want the stripe. You know, maybe they only want the 2 or 3 pieces, the one on the bed or the pickup truck or whatever it is. So you gotta, you know, be flexible and get everybody the stripe kits that they need.
Looks like these things are growing up out of the floor. What are they?
Well, right here in the front are tubs and tubs and tubs of floor mats of all different varieties of mats. And then behind that is moldings, color-coded moldings, plastic or rubber moldings, for almost any kind of vehicle you can imagine. Boxes are full of windshield washer bottles that you push a button and it squirts on your windshield. And those are all plastic bottles there, of the bigger ones. The smaller ones are all back up in the front of the thing. This is all boxes of just little nuts and bolts and grommets and shims and stuff that's just, you know, why would keep it? Nobody knows. But we do sell it. I mean, people, they got to have 16 ball bearings to do this particular job that they can't get anywhere else. If they can get it anywhere else, they don't know how you get from whatever that brand is to Ford. And when they do it with the Ford and the Ford part number, then they know they've got what they're supposed to have. There's no question that that's what they're supposed to be doing. Behind here is a room full of wheels, rims, whatever you want to call them. And there's 5 different locations for wheels and rims. There's like 470 wheels here somewhere and around. This is the kind of stuff you really do want to get rid of, because it's like spaghetti. It just is exhaust. This is only a portion of the exhaust pipes and mufflers and so forth that we have. We don't have everything, but you never know what we might have, and if you don't check, you don't know. And when you do get this, you get the original stuff and not the aftermarket. There's a lot of heavy duty, some truck stuff in here, and then there's stuff that goes back into the 40s. Some of these little mufflers are back in the early 40s.
Notice all this blue plastic.
Yes, these are bumper covers, fascias, whatever you want to call them, but they're all bumper covers, and they're all, you know, the plastic and that sort of thing. But this is a pretty good organized portion of them, but there's probably 5-6 times this amount in other locations, like over here. They're in cardboard tubs and in skids, and the dealers really hate these with a passion, because there's just no way you can inventory them and keep them straight. You know, if somebody wants to look at them, so they cut the strings on it, and then you got to put it back, and then they put the part numbers in the middle of them, and they should be out on the end so that, you know, you can store them. So it's just a headache for them, and the sooner they can get rid of them, the better they like it.
What are we looking at here?
Well, in addition to bigger bumpers and so forth, we're looking at headliners, like these guys here, huge headliners, door post panels, There's some steering wheels, skids of steering wheels, just bulky wiring harnesses, skids of wiring harnesses that go all the way down to those lights. It's just bigger stuff. Maybe some hoods. And then behind us over here is the Econoline van quarters and doors and the really huge pieces of sheet metal. This stuff that's over on this side is bigger pieces that, like this tub here that's got a 71 T-bird, all 4 doors. This is a suicide door version, and they're used, but they're good rust-free pieces. These are some of the doors that I talked about that came from over in the desert. There's just skids of those. Up on the top here are fuel senders that a company that makes gas tanks and so forth that has fuel senders that fit into the tank. They order enough senders to go with the tanks, but you can't really get an even count, so that you end up with some left over every year when you make them, and then they somehow find their way here.